If you have COPD, here's something your doctor may never have told you. Your lungs aren't the only one under attack. COPD's chronic inflammation, steroid medication, and breathlessness-driven inactivity create that perfect biological storm for the blood sugar problems. And once diabetes enters the picture, it drags your mental health down with it. More than 30% of people with COPD experience depression, and research shows that having diabetes rises that risk by further 28%. Yet most COPD patients are only ever treated for their lungs. We used to think brain health and physical health are separate kingdoms. That was a dangerous mistake. Today, in this video, I'm going to expose the hidden biological connection between your brain and your blood sugar, from stress hormones to the inflammation inside your brain cells. And most importantly, I'll show how you can begin to break the cycle. Have you ever felt like trapped in a vicious cycle where a stressful day tanks your blood sugar and then your crashing blood sugar makes you feel even worse, more irritable, more foggy? You might blame it on a lack of willpower or just a bad day. But what if it's a dangerous biological loop, a pre-programmed downward spiral that traps millions? Here's what's actually happening. COPD disrupts the blood sugar. An unstable blood sugar destabilizes the brain. And destabilized brain makes it harder to manage everything that keeps COPD under control. It's not a bad day, it's a biological loop. People with diabetes have a higher risk of experiencing depression. A 2017 meta-analysis of 32 studies involving over 1.27 million participants found that people with depression were 34% more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, while people with diabetes were 28% more likely to develop depression compared to those without it. But this isn't about feeling sad because you have chronic illness. This goes much, much deeper. The link between your mood and your blood sugar is a two-way street, a feedback loop where each one can make other worse. When most people think about blood sugar problems, they picture the body. No one ever pictures the brain, but here's the reality. Your brain is the most energy demanding organ in your body. Despite only making up to 2% of your body weight, it consumes more than 20% of your body's glucose-derived energy just to function. It's incredibly sensitive to its fuel source. When that fuel source is chaotic, swinging from high to low, it can throw your brain's command center completely off balance. This isn't just theory. Science is confirming it has a powerful bidirectional relationship. Here's how the loop works. On one side, having diabetes and the blood sugar swings that comes with it can directly trigger changes in your brain that are linked to depression. On the other side, being depressed or under chaotic stress can actively sabotage your body's ability to manage blood sugar, pushing you towards a worse glycemic control and more complications. It's a perfect storm. High blood sugar can drag your mood down, and low mood can make your diabetes harder to manage. You feel bad, so it's tougher to manage your health. And because your health is harder to manage, your blood sugar gets worse, which in turn makes you feel worse mentally. This isn't a personal failing, it's a biological trap. A 2010 systematic review of 11 longitudinal studies involving over 172,000 participants found that people with type 2 diabetes had a 24% increased risk of developing depression compared to those without it. So while your brain and blood sugar are dangerously intertwined because they share a deep biological pathway, when one goes wrong, it drags the other one down. Let's look at the three most important ones. The first one is the HPA axis, hypothalamus pituitary adrenaline axis. Think of it as your body's central stress communication system. When you experience stress, whether a bad day at work or internal stress of depression, the system fires up. The hypothalamus tells the pituitary what to do, and the pituitary tells the adrenaline glands to release the stress hormones, cortisol. In a healthy person, this is a short-term alarm, but in chronic stress and depression, that alarm gets stuck in an on mode, leading to persistent dysregulation and often elevation of the cortisol. And that's the bad news for the blood sugar. One of the cortisol's key jobs is to raise your blood sugar to give you energy for a fight or a flight response. When that response never comes, the constant elevation of the cortisol can worsen the insulin resistance, making it harder for your cells to use the glucose and leaving it stuck in your blood. And the second shared pathway is inflammation. It is a buzzword now here, but it's more critical in this case. Both the persistent high blood sugar and the stress of the chronic depression are strongly associated with a state of chronic low-grade inflammation throughout your body. This isn't like an acute inflammation of a sprained ankle. It is a silent simmering fire that can damage the blood vessels, including the fragile ones in your brain. It disrupts how the cells communicate, and growing evidence suggests that it directly contributes to both insulin resistance in the body and mood disorders in the brain. A 2015 meta-analysis of 58 studies found significantly elevated levels of CRP, that is C-reactive protein, and interleukin-6, IL-6, in people with depression. And some researchers believe the shared inflammatory pathways is a central mechanism physically linking diabetes and depression. And another 2019 meta-analysis of 37 studies comprising 13,541 depressed patients found significantly elevated levels of C-reactive protein in people with depression. And some researchers believe this shared inflammatory pathway is a central mechanism physically linking diabetes and depression. The third and perhaps the most fascinating pathway is a concept researchers call brain insulin resistance. You heard that right. We think of insulin resistance as a problem in our muscles or fat cells, but your brain uses insulin too. It's vital for your memory, learning, and regulating neurotransmitters. Research published in the Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience shows that brain insulin resistance causes abnormal neurotransmitter release, particularly reduced glutamate and dopamine, impairing the neural transmission, resulting in learning, memory deficits, and cognitive impairment. When your neurons go deaf to insulin signals, your entire mood regulation system is compromised. It's like they have gone deaf to a critical message. This impaired signaling can mess with the balance of your neurotransmitters that regulate your mood. Because of this profound link between insulin resistance and cognitive declines, some scientists have proposed calling Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes. It's a controversial idea, but it highlights just how deep this connection goes. So I've talked at length now about the deep mechanism, but what actually it feels like in your reality. It can be a brain fog where you can't focus, a sudden overwhelming fatigue that hits you in the afternoon, even if you had enough good sleep. It's that flash of irritability or anger that seems to come from nowhere. These aren't the quirks of your personality. They're often a direct symptom of your brain struggling with fuel instability. When your blood sugar is chronically high, it leads to inflammation and oxidative stress that impacts your brain function. And it's not just your eyes. When your blood sugar crashes, that is hypoglycemia, your brain is starved of its primary fuel. In response, your body panics and your system can be flooded with adrenaline. That's why low blood sugar feel like a panic attack, creating that anxiety, jitteriness, and confusion. When your blood sugar is on a roller coaster, your brain is also on an emotional and a cognitive roller coaster along with it. It is well established that a long-term high blood sugar can damage the blood vessels in your brain, leading to problems with the memory, learning, and mood over time. What you're experiencing is not all in your head, it's in your blood, and that blood is shaping the very function of your brain, moment to moment. Okay, now I shared all this dangerous loops, the connection of your blood and the brain, and we have seen how the stress, inflammation, and insulin resistance conspire to link your brain and your blood sugar. The science might feel a bit grim, but understanding the mechanism is the first and the most powerful step towards breaking it. Knowledge is power, and now you have the knowledge to dismantle the cycle. Managing stress is not a soft wellness step, it's a critical biological intervention. This is where practice like breathwork, mindfulness, meditation comes in. There's a growing evidence that these practices can help downregulate the HPA axis, lower your cortisol levels, and improve your body's sensitivity to insulin. Regular moderate exercise is another powerful tool. It's not only to help your muscles use oxygen more efficiently, but also acts as a potent stress reducer. By managing your stress, you're directly telling your adrenal gland to stand down, breaking the hormonal chain that can worsen your blood sugar. Finally, this is crucial. It's about addressing both sides of the coin. The research is pretty clear. Diabetes and depression are often mutually reinforcing conditions. Therefore, many health guidelines recommend they be managed together. If you have a diabetes, it's important to be aware of the signs of depression. It's not signs of weakness. It's known a common comorbidity. And I have spoken at the start that people with COPD having links to diabetes. So if you have COPD and diabetes, it is very important that you have a deeper look on your mental health and know that you're more prone to depression symptoms. It's not a sign of weakness. Getting help to treat your depression and mental health. If you have these two chronic conditions like COPD and diabetes together, treating it early can dramatically improve your ability to manage your both conditions. Conversely, if you struggle with depression, it's vital to pay attention to your metabolic health, as poor self-care is a common symptom of depression. Talk to your doctors, make sure they know you're dealing with both. For years, we have treated mind and body as separate kingdoms, but your body doesn't know that. It's one integrated system. The dangerous loop between your brain and your blood sugar is one of the most powerful examples of this truth. Now it's time to break the cycle. It's about reclaiming your energy, your focus, your calm, and your mood. It's about taking back control of your own biology. If this video opened your eyes to this dangerous loop, give it a like. And to keep learning how to take back control of your health, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss the next one.